this instructor one time, he's like, you know what the number one rule of war is? And I was like, what? And he said, don't kill yourself and don't get your buddy killed. You can't you can't kill the enemy if you're dead. And so it was that kind of instilled very young in me, like, hey, it was all or nothing. You had to put it all out there.
Check in. Crew. Voices in the dark. Altitude and attitude. Laughter over scars. Death on call. We ride that line together. Stories from the sky. We drag them through the weather. Yeah. Death on call. We bleed in quiet confessions. AC hearts built from chaos and aggression.
IR Gun 2 trainable channel A, TV Gun 3 trainable channel B. Distance of friendlies is 175 to 200 meters. Focus ready both channels. Now firm start, clear to fire.
This is April 11th, 2026. This is the Death on Call podcast, episode 9. Eng Load P1 is the name of this episode. And tonight we are live from our new studio at live from the gun deck at Death on Call Studios. Really, it's my attic that I renovated, but it's a studio that's dedicated space. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited with our guests. We've got two firsts tonight. We've got our first engineer, and we have our first female gunship crew member, Loadmaster. So tonight you will get a very brief on their bios. And it goes like this. We will start with Tech Sergeant Retired Juan Newman, 4th SOS Flight Engineer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tech Sergeant Juan Newman. And along that same vein, we are going to go with Retired Staff Sergeant Jen Brock, parentheses Walker, as everyone knows her, or flew with her. AC-130U Loadmaster, MC-130J Initial Cadre, from 07 to 14 served, and then retired. Welcome to the show, Retired Staff Sergeant Jen Brock, parentheses Walker. I don't want to hyphenate it. I don't want to emasculate your husband or anything like that.
Jesus.
Well,
Yeah, I hear you.
So this is cool. We've got a good show tonight going on. We were shooting for a Friday night morale show. Things happen because we all have lives that, we can't mitigate the circumstances. And I'm just thankful to have everybody here tonight. We do not have our redheaded stepchild, 𝐓𝐇𝐈𝐒, co-host, as he is doing some other things. So you got me tonight. I'm your host, JL Pelt, and we are going to kick off and go from here. So let's start with you, ladies first. Sorry, Juan.
Yeah, no worries.
Jen, let's pick it to you. I know you came in a couple classes behind me as a first term crew.
Mm-hmm.
And you were a gung-ho leader all the way, dorm chief and all the cool stuff. Tell me about being, first off, you being a kind of a devout Carolinian ending up in gunships and not, kicking some sweet tea-tails over at Charleston or something. Talk to us about getting to gunships, especially as a female.
Yeah, sure. So it's interesting because, I decided to go in after college, and I just kind of wanted to pick a job that was going to let me travel, that I was going to get a guaranteed paycheck because I had school loans I had to pay off. So for me, joining the Air Force seemed like the right idea. And I had been told through, all of basic training and through my recruiter, and through various other people, that if you just do well enough and you get good grades, then you can pretty much pick where you want to go. And I did that, came out and busted my ass and was top of a lot of my classes. And I just knew, I didn't even put any other ones down. I was like, I'm going C-17s to Charleston. That's what I'm going to do. There wasn't even an inkling of I might not get that. So when I heard they were like, congratulations, Airman Walker. You got AC-130 gunships. Like, what the fuck is a gunship? I didn't know the Air Force had ships. I didn't know the Air Force had boats. Yeah.
Life
So I
deferred.
had, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I was like, okay. They were like, I asked my instructors, I'm like, what the hell? I did what you guys said. And they were like, well, sometimes it just happens. And I'm like, you sound like my mom trying to say this work. The Lord works in mysterious ways. But let's see. Yeah, getting through training's a little bit different an environment than being operational, right? And excuse me. Um, it was definitely an eye opener when I got there. I remember instructors having like really tough conversations, like, "Hey, do you understand what you're going to do? Like, I don't want to waste my time training you if you're not ready. Like, here, ready." And they were right. I remember my first deployment, and I had called one of my sisters back home, and it's like, yeah, I'm out doing the thing, and blah blah blah, and she was like, "Are you sure that the plane you told me is what you're flying on is what you're flying on? Because I talked to this guy at a bar, and he swears up and down they don't let females fly those planes." And I was like, "Yep, I'm pretty sure that's what I'm flying. Pretty sure. With the three big bang bangs out the side, I'm pretty sure that's what I'm flying." Um,
Those are just kickstands.
right. They're not operational.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting perspective to go into a predominantly male job environment, and be the first female. And I know it's weird, like you want to kind of fit in and just be like the cool girl, but like also like maintain boundaries, and it can be a very precarious position to be in for sure. Um, but going down range, you realize like how many other women are just doing the exact same thing you are and have been doing it for a while. So this is not anything new. It's not new for me. It's just different. And I definitely am incredibly grateful because I had a whole bunch of incredible women: Chris Dubois, Megan Ripple, well, I guess she's Holly John now. Um, but yeah, those women really kind of brought me up and took me under their wing and showed me how to take the shit with a smile, I guess might be the best way to say it. Um, yeah, I think that's all I got about that. I think I just rambled there.
It's okay. So we ramble a lot on this show. It's good. Well, let's kick it over to the Inge. Please don't kick our ass too bad, Inge, about everything we don't know.
Good.
You're smartest man on the plane. So
That's in question. That's in question.
I can see your head getting bigger by the second.
Yeah. I didn't know the camera panned down that far. So
Ladies and gentlemen, Juan Newman.
I have not changed.
tell us about where you came from and coming to Gunships, Juan.
I originally came out of Ramstein, Germany. The squadron, for some reason, I don't know why, they decided they wanted to go with the J model instead of the old E models we were flying. It's, I'm not a fan of the J's. I'm just going to put that out there, but it is what it is. So
It's okay to be J. It's okay to be J.
Never. No, but they basically told all the flight engineers, either, especially the ones with seniority, find somewhere to go. We'll find somewhere for you to go. So I was looking all around, trying to figure out where I wanted to go. I knew it was probably going to be my last hurrah because at that point, I was fed up with just PCSing, going all over the place and stuff. Don't get me wrong. I had good assignments in my career, but I was married at that point, wanted to just wind it down and find somewhere that I knew I could retire at without having to, after retirement, do the big transition of the move and everything like that. So I started asking around, and I called my friend up. Cartwright is his government name, but they call him CJ Hotmouth McLean. So, or an angry engineer and everything. I called him up and I was like, "Hey, what do you think?" So he's like, "Come to Herbert Field, do the gunships." So I was like, "Is it fun
You
there?"
didn't do that right. He was probably like, "Come to Herbert Field. Just come on."
Oh yeah. Well, don't get me wrong. I had to use a AI app to translate his gibberish. especially when he's upset, he starts gibbering
Oh,
and
I
everything.
know.
So
Sounds
he's
like
gonna kill
CJ.
me when he sees this. But yeah, we talked for a little bit, and he basically laid it out with the gunships and stuff like that. And I remember being at the Herbert Field area when I first came through water survival training, it was or so. And I love the area. My wife, she loved the beach and everything like that. So I was like, you know what? It's a win-win. So I went and talked to one of my friends. He was a youth safety functional manager for flight engineers, 𝐄𝐏𝐈𝐒𝐃𝐄. He ended up putting in a few calls, and next thing you know, like, I think, wow, it might have even been the same day, but I ended up getting word that I had an assignment, or they were putting me in for an assignment to Herbert Field. So I was like, that'll work for me. That'll work for me. Not too bad of a ride for my last hoorah.
No, and I imagine you got that return call so fast because we were hurting for them. I mean, and we were not getting very many successful ones coming through the schoolhouse.
Yeah.
I
JJ told me, like, be sure this is what you want, because when I put your name in or say that somebody's volunteering to do it, you're not getting out of it. So I was like, it's definitely what I want. Yeah.
Right.
This episode of Death on Call is brought to you in part by Danger Close Apparel, founded by a fellow AFSOC aviator and former AC-130U gunship fire control officer. Danger Close creates high-quality gear that bridges the flying and special operations worlds. Hats, shirts, patches, and more that let you wear your story with pride. Whether you're repping the gunship heritage or just showing support for the community. Check them out at dangercloseapparel.com. Use promo code DEATHONCALL, one word, at checkout for 15% off your order. Danger Close Apparel, because some stories are worth wearing close to the fight. Thank you for supporting a veteran-owned business.
Okay, well, this be the same question kind of for both people, but you get to the schoolhouse. I mean, immediately, because you're both coming from 130s, so you've got experience, Inge, and Jen, you've got a qual coming from Little Rock on slicks, and you get there, and all of a sudden you realize this is nothing like I am used to doing. There is so many other pieces to it. What initial thoughts of schoolhouse, and like, holy shit, this is different.
Yeah, I definitely had that experience, kind of being in the schoolhouse. I just remember going through, regular C-130 training, and there were people, other loadmasters, slick loadmasters, that were, continuing on with their training there. And there were so many times in, basic loadmaster and things like that when, I'd have an instructor say, "Oh, you don't need to learn this. You're going to gunships." And so that was the impression that I had, that I'm going to be doing something completely different. That was the only thing I had to go off of, though. You get exposed to such a small window of what a platform does, in training, and then you move on to the next best thing. So for me, when I got to the squadron and was going to do, just walk around airplane stuff and learn, a little bit more about the equipment, my mind was blown. I was like, the shop is not load mastering at all. They're like, "Well, you do a Form F. So that's what it takes to be qualified to be a loadmaster." Whew, you guys are setting your sights a little low there.
Right.
But yeah, it was just completely a culture shock for me, because all of a sudden I was thrown into this pool of where the herd was thinning and the top performers were really, making a name for themselves going through training. And but I just remember, like, looking at all the other loadmasters with 8-9 deployments under their belt, and families and kids, and now they're trying to stay home. And I remember looking at them almost like they were like gods or something. Like I don't know why, but Dave Lund sticks out in my brain right now, and I just like he was such an asshole, but he meant so well by trying to like shove all of that information in my brain and like bring out the best in me. And it was kind of scary, but it worked. So yeah, it was definitely a shock for me going into that kind of environment. And I had no idea what to expect on my first deployment. I was something else on that deployment.
Yeah. Um, did you in your syllabus, did you ever get to a place where you're like, I don't know if I want this bad enough, or was it just like for me, I thought I was going to strike out twice, and I was down to my last chance just because I did it all backwards and got married before I got to Little Rock, and then had a kid in the middle of initial qual gunships. And so like I'm trying to figure out how to be a husband and a father and figure out this whole Air Force thing, especially in gunships. And I was like, I don't know that this is for me anymore. But then I wanted so desperately to be a part of it. I didn't care how hard it was. It's kind of like that first hit free from a dealer. It's so good being around those kind of people who, yeah, you're right. And I didn't look at them as gods. I looked at them as just something that just was unobtainable, because I've always felt like in my life, I've been right on the edge or the other side of, oh, everybody before us had it so good, like in school or growing up, or, things change right as I'm about to hit it. And then I'm like, I don't know that we're going to see the same amount. And then sure as shit, we spin up and we deployed all the damn time. Yeah, you had to want it. And, I feel like those that made it through, they wanted it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because we
For
watched
sure.
plenty of people around our classes drop, either in, like advanced TAC phase, or, some of them air sickness and defensive stuff. And
Mm.
you watch it just happen over and over, and you're like, how the fuck, those dudes are so much smarter than me. And you figure it out as you go. I don't know. I didn't want to, is that whole fear of failure that I think drove, especially in
Absolutely.
that.
100%.
Yeah. Like when I went through, and I was seeing people failing out, like it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why don't you just try harder? Okay, we'll find out what your weaknesses are and work on those. Like it just did not, failure was never an option. Like, and I can't remember what kind of training I was in, but this instructor one time, he's like, you know what the number one rule of war is? And I was like, what? And he said, don't kill yourself and don't get your buddy killed. You can't you can't kill the enemy if you're dead. And so it was that kind of instilled very young in me, like, hey, it was all or nothing. You had to put it all out there. And I really, it took me a while, even flying the plane, to truly understand, what he meant. And, that's for a 22-year-old female, that's a lot to have to swallow.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
No.
So yeah, it's it's a big job, and I don't think that you really know what you're getting into until you are actually in the middle of it, which is scary, being there. But at the same time, it's like both the best and the worst time of your life at the same time. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, no, you're right over the target on that one. Juan, coming from mobility to strike, tell me about that. Tell me about going through Eng school at the 19th after having thousands of hours in transport.
It was a totally different animal. Totally different animal. I mean, it's after multiple deployments, just as they say, flying Big Blue and everything, especially out of 𝐄𝐏𝐈𝐒𝐃, Japan, and Ramstein, Germany. It was one of those things where, yes, I'd been used to being in the desert, being in combat zones and stuff like that, and even had the aircraft hit before by hostile fire. Well, technically all fire is hostile, but it was one of those things where it's a big difference when you're actively engaging the enemy and when you're just trying to keep safe while doing your job. It was a different mindset, different mentality, because before in Big Blue, you were basically taught, hey, try and avoid this, that, the other, and whatnot. And once you went to the 4th SOS and started actually learning the gunship mission, it wasn't you were trying to avoid it, it was you were actively hunting for it so you could neutralize, It went from delivering supplies and troops and stuff like that to fuck the deliveries. We're here to fuck shit up and keep going, So it was a refreshing mindset, though. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Schoolhouse was fun. I had a lot of fun there. It was there was sometimes, even in the schoolhouse and after schoolhouse, where I'll be honest, my head just was not in the game, but it was due to stuff going on in my personal life that that was basically, well, shit. It was my primary concern and stuff. Don't get me wrong. I love the job. I love flying, stuff like that. But when it comes to family, family's first. So at that point, between the family and the mission, fuck the mission. I got to take care of my family. But mission is second. Once my family's good, the mission first, So it was fun. It was fun. It was a learning experience. I can tell you that. I definitely learned how to carry myself with grace, because there was a couple times where I wanted to fuck up a couple of evaluators and instructors, just for a simple fact. It's basically they lack grace when they talk to you. They don't understand that I'm not one of the type of people that like mixes home life and work life. So I don't really talk about my problems at home at work that much, but it's one of those things where they had no idea what in the hell I was going through when everything was happening. But it's one of those things where it taught me, it bettered me as a person, as a man, and it actually gave me a better skill set on how to deal with people and stuff. Because I mean, I'm still friends with some of them even to this day. Other ones I wouldn't piss in their mouth if they were on fire. But it was one of the things.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, hey, I'm just being honest. And I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'd still take a bullet for all of them, because no matter what your personal disagreements or anything like that is, when you're in the suck and you're on a mission, or it's us against them, then they are us and I am us. So, it's I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure everybody gets home safe. So, yeah.
Yeah. Did was it difficult to go from, a traditional 5-6 person crew and transport to that orchestra of chaos, Symphony of Chaos?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Especially because most of the time on the gunships, I was a senior NCO on the gunships when I flew. So just being not in charge of that many people, but basically being in charge of that many enlisted people, it's like, hey, it's the adult program. Act like an adult. And it's one of those things where one of my good friends now, after gunships, always has a quote, "Don't make me do my job." So that was pretty much the way I rolled, is like, hey, we're all the dopes, just don't make me do my job. Don't make me have to step in on this shit. But
Yeah.
it was, I think the main problem with adjustment was, well, not the main problem with adjustment, but one of the big differences I found is going on a regular slit. Like you said, the crew is minimum, but on gunships, you have everybody on there. So if I'm trying to listen to all compartments at one time, it was just utter chaos. That and listening to the radios and stuff like that. Like a lot of times during air refueling, I would literally turn off every radio except for the cockpit. I tell the co-pilot or whoever, hey, if emergency pops up and someone's trying to call me, let me know. But I'm on outside comms with the tanker because I can't get distracted. You know how it is when two airplanes going that fast. Anything can happen. Turbulence, somebody lose their mind, mechanical failure.
Yeah, dude, hit a toboggan while you're, firewall. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Airplanes don't like touching each other in the sky.
Yeah, dude. you know, that's a question that's kind of sailed me for a while, you know, wanting to talk to an engineer about that was that, you know, at a certain point, you're the uncommissioned commissioned officer, you know, on the flight deck. You've got a secret with the pilots whenever anything goes wrong, and you're going to try to fix it and mitigate it.
Yeah.
But when there's all kinds, you know, especially on like a training line, and there's 21 different personalities and 21 different agendas going on. And I guess the question comes down to, where is there like a secret engineer, you know, graph of how much risk you're willing to take before you're
Okay.
like, no?
Yeah, there definitely is. It was but I mean it's one of those things where as an engineer, as a not even an engineer, as a NCO or even the senior NCO or the NCO I see on a crew, it's just one of those things where it's not always going to be rosy. It was one time where actually I'll share a story with you. One of my very good friends, one of my best friends, Jay Mitchell. I don't know if you guys remember him. His nickname also was Hot Mouth, Jay Hot Mouth Mitchell. But everybody's Hot Mouth. No, I love Jay to death. We still keep in close contact. He's right down the street from me. But we were we both came from Ramstein, Germany. We were in Germany together, and it was a one mission that we were on. It was a training mission. Crew rest got interrupted, but it got interrupted bad because they had us in these little shit converted like semi trailers with a little window unit air conditioning in it. The power went out, so everybody woke up just utterly roasting. It was the middle of the day, nobody could get back to sleep, and they wanted us to go out and fly nighttime on MVGs in the mountains in Romania. So it was me, myself, Jay Mitchell, one of my good friends, Drew Holstenback, he was a loadmaster. All of us, we were like, fuck it, crew rest. So that did not go over well. When we got back to Ramstein after that, like we didn't even have time to get our shit off the airplane. The commander had people out there waiting for us and brought us into his office and stood us up at attention. And I mean, he chewed our asses from one side of the building to the other. But I mean, it's one of those things where, and I had no problem with my commander and anything, but it came down to fuck it. That's what I got to do to maintain safety and stick up for the other people on my crew, whether they're NCOs or enlisted or officers and everything like that. If there's a safety issue where I think there's actually going to be problems, then I'm not going to accept it. It's one of those things where I'll take the hit, but most of the time, if I line up to take a hit, I'm pretty sure I'm fucking right. One time on the gunships, we had weather rolling in, had a prop oil leak. A certain group commander that I'm not going to name came up on the aircraft and started trying to get my ass about why I wouldn't take the plane. It's an exercise. There's weather rolling in. And I mean, when I say weather was rolling in, weather was rolling in. And I told him, sir, it's out of limits. So his whole thing was, well, can't you press forward? And if there's a problem, shut it down. And to me, it was one of those moments of basically, what the fuck are you talking about? If there's a problem, shut it down. Why would we take off and put ourselves in that situation for a problem to occur and put everybody's lives on jeopardy? It's an exercise. If it was downrange and people's lives are in danger, or people were throwing lead and they called us in or something like that, then yes, I would probably accept the risk because the payoff far outweighs,
Right.
you know. But it's literally home-based and exercise. Let's do as the exercise intended, hand it back to maintenance, then they can do their part of the exercise. So
You didn't have the 7-level magic rag?
yeah, you know, it's one of those things. It's one of those things. And I mean, it's I kind of got on that group commander shit list because I red exit, and sometimes my tack level is not that great. It was basically, sir, I've already put it on a red X, but you can sign it off if you want to. And at that point, it's like, fuck you. You can fly this damn thing if you want to. I'm not going on a plane like that in an exercise. Downrange is a different story. Other people's lives on the line is a different story. But I'm not going to risk my life or anybody else's life for basically trying to get the numbers up for bean counters or any bullshit like that.
Yeah.
So,
well, and even to a certain extent, a downrange tick is one thing. It really is. A downrange 30,000 foot stack with 15 CAS assets and ISR and everybody else, and you're going to be held at, you know, Angels 15 for noise abatement, and you're not even able to see. There's a lot of times we took a lot of risk that there was no point. We went and burned 36,000 pounds of fuel to sit and burn a hole around Baghdad or, you know, wherever. And so if it's a tick, guys are in contact or you know, it's a mission that really has to go fully behind it, you know, throw caution to the wind, but it's already magic that that you guys can whip the toll data enough that the plane can actually fly.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, I don't remember the numbers, but the drag index is so horrific on that bird. Like, I don't know, you had to like substitute, you know, some variables in there to make sure it flew.
I can tell you this, if every toll card was ever put into a toll computer, there'd be a lot of red screens popping up. Downrange is a totally different story, you know? It's you got to do what you got to do to get the mission done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, since we're you know, kicking down range, both of y'all, whoever wants to go first, let's talk about like your first trips, memorable stories, coming together as a crew, downrange to engage the enemies. Anything you want to talk about, floor's y'all's.
You're up,
Okay. Well, let's see. My first deployment, I got very, very lucky. My engineer was Brian Billingsley.
Oh, man.
And he was just like this wealth of knowledge and a sight of sunshine. Like, he always had me cracking up, like the things he would notice, point out, the jokes he would make. He was just freaking hilarious. And he's the only guy who I've ever seen be dead asleep with a huge dip in.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't forget the lip full of Copenhagen.
Yes, the entire lip full of Copenhagen. And
I'm
come
going to
up
go on
out
the
of
record and say that man is a fucking genius.
He comes up out of a dead sleep, spits in the bottle, puts the cap on, goes right back to sleep. I'm like, he's going to choke on that shit one day.
That's what he said.
Bam.
Hey. So yeah, he was, like I said, my engine, my first deployment. And, you know, I was kind of feeling myself out there and trying to figure out, you know, where my position was with the crew. And, you know, I was brand new, probably overly cocky, but scared shitless at the same time.
Masking insecurity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I had some, you know, a lot of people say just fake it till you make it. And that was what I was going to try and do. It was interesting because like the first day in country, I guess we were going to Chow, and we went to go climb in one of the buses. And so I'm just sitting there like third or fourth seat, and I can't even remember who it was that was like, "Hey, Load, you ever driven a stick before?" And I was like, "No." And they were like, "You gonna learn today?" And I'm like, "Ha, that's hilarious. You guys aren't gonna make me do that, right?" Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. Yeah. So pulling in and out of the DFAC parking lot and then pulling up to the gate to the flight line, and like the whole bus is like shaking like this. But, you know, I mean, I don't know if you could burn that clutch out any more than it already was. Was definitely interesting. And
Well, you tried.
I tried. I did my best. It wasn't pretty, but we got it done.
That's great.
Yeah. And the entire deployment after that was relentless. Like, there were times I go to pick up my backpack one day, and both my backpack and my helmet bag feel just abnormally light. Like, what the hell is going on here? So I open my backpack up, and there's like 50 of those Otis Spunkmeyer muffins shoved in my backpack and my helmet bag. So I gotta dump them all out. Okay, put all my shit back in the bag, and then haul out to the plane because everybody's already done left. And as I'm getting, you know, going to climb up the stairs, everybody's like, "Ha ha ha."
Yeah, they did the same shit to me, except they took my shit out and filled it with cranberry juice because I was being an asshole.
Yeah. Well, then I got to the plane and like, I'm like, why can't I see out the bubble? I don't, it's so dark in here. They'd filled the damn bubble up with muffins. How many defects did you have to rob for that many muffins?
It was well
Like,
orchestrated and guaranteed took a couple days, just like the cranberry juice did. The gunners
oh
were
yeah.
great at that.
Yeah.
They could forecast when they needed to
Mhm.
hit you and how many days it would take, depending on how much they could procure from a defect.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know, I must have had a sign on me that said I'm a dumbass or something, but I like kept falling for all these stupid pranks.
Yeah.
They'd be like, Loadmaster, hey, why don't you go check out your door? They'd go and like knock on my door. And I'm like looking up, and it was like a 5-pound can of raviolis from like 30 years ago. And they were trying to like bring it down on me or something. Well, they duct tape a bunch of Pop Tarts to our B Hut
Yeah.
doors. Like,
1976. That was a good year for ravioli.
right, right. And then I think we paid somebody $20 to eat the can. They had to eat the can in like under 10 minutes. I'm pretty sure it was Worm. Pretty sure it was Worm.
Oh,
Yep.
God.
And he ate that whole can of 30-year-old raviolis like it was his job.
Damn.
Those were some fun times for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really, really good pranks.
Juan, what about you? You get downrange on your first one? Anything memorable? Or are you just like, are you kidding me, you bunch of assholes? Like, really? We're going to do this?
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. Because I mean, regardless of the good times or bad times, I absolutely loved, even if I hated their fucking guts, I loved everybody on the cruise. I loved everybody in the squadron, flying with them the whole 9 yards, because it helped build me to who I am now. And it helped, I guess, for lack of better terms, increase my pain tolerance. And it also really helped with bonding. Because I mean, it's one of those things where, well, shit, I'll just say it straight out. I've never been on a crew, a gunship crew, where at least 2 people in the crew didn't, after engines shut down, want to kick each other's ass. Like literally, it was, and I love you. We'll hug it out. We'll drink it out the whole 9 yards afterwards. But right now, I'm about to get off this plane and whoop your ass when you come off. It was always at least 2 people like that. And a lot of times it was roommates. So there was times where I just absolutely wanted to choke the shit out of my roommates. But I'm telling you right now, I would fucking die for all of them. I would. It's
yeah,
one of those things
I do the same.
Yeah,
and even if like, I remember, Juan, wasn't it the last time you and I crewed together, there was a gunner who just would irritate the absolute living shit out of me.
Yeah.
And
only one?
well, this one in particular. So like, I'm kind of sensitive to smells sometimes, right? So this freaking person would go eat an entire plate of Mongolian barbecue and go drink one of those chocolate Gatorade shakes, the ones that made you like shit through a screen door. Yep, go drink one of those and then throw a whole dip in and then get on the plane. And right after we took off, he'd be like, all right, I'm going to take my shit now. I'm like, really? You're saving it every single day just to fuck with me?
He was.
Yeah. That's dedicated. He's dedicated. I can't be mad. He was dedicated.
So this is not a gunship story, but it's an AFSOC story. We had a Stanival load in Sav, and downrange in Africa, he would eat the grossest shit. And the toilet on the front of a C-146 Alpha is at the very front of the plane. And it's a shower curtain that goes around you with all the seats behind it. And he would wait till he loaded up whatever soft team and then take off, and then he would shit right there in front of all of them. And it would just be it was every flight, the rankest shit. I don't know why, but there's always a crew member that gets their jollies on whatever plane, like public deucing.
I'm going to tell you right now, on slicks, especially transporting Army personnel and in flight, they take shits. I would ask them, who's the last person to take the shit? Because you go back there and the honey bucket was full. So I'd ask the loadmaster, who's the last person to take the shit? And they're like, oh, this person right here. So I would literally go on their fucking bus. Like, hey, I need to see you. And of course, the NCOs or whoever, like, what's going on? It's like, you can come with me too, but I need to see them right now. So then both of them walk off the plane. I was like, you left something on our plane you need to take with you. Literally. Why? And we tell them, you can pee all you want out the urinals. But if you take a shit, take the bag with you. We don't want to clean up your shit. Why in the fuck do you think you'd be able to take a shit and then just walk off like you didn't do it? Like, I was notorious for calling people out on that shit. You're going to bag that shit up and do the walk of shame and take it on the crew bus, sling it off in the ditch so the dogs can eat it. I don't give a shit, but it ain't staying on the plane. Because the worst smell, and it only happens one time before you learn the lesson, is when someone forgets to clean the honey bucket and you come out the next day to pre-flight on that plane and shit hits you in the face. Ugh. Yeah.
My first trip to Afghanistan, we had a +4 bird. It was actually my first trip, and we had a +4 bird with no 25, so we were just a pressurized H model or U model. Right. And anyway, we were having issues with maintenance, and we couldn't get a SWAT team out there to service anything. And so they started red Xing the toilet, and Dan Hunter would be like, nope, that shit ain't flying. And we went up one night, we got alert launched, and we come out, and that bitch is wired shut. I don't know if you've ever seen a toilet wired. That bitch was wired shut.
Safety wired shut, yep.
Yep. And he was like, I don't think so. Bust out his Leatherman and cuts that bitch open. He's like, I don't care where it goes. They can clean it up. This happened 3 times. And finally, like, we had to get the expeditionary group commander involved, but whoever they had to pay to come out and do it, because they're like, we can't go fly literally a 10, 11-hour mission with no toilet.
MREs and chow box nasties and shit.
Yeah, there was no honey bucket. You had a Kim toilet. I don't care. I don't care how much it cost. That's Air Force procurement's problem for putting that toilet on this plane.
100%.
Just come out there and go take a piss. You're like, it won't fucking open. Dan Hunter's like, they safety wired it. Yeah. That's
Well, I remember there was one time at Balad, and there's one particular plane that I don't know, something was going on with it. Like, fleet service tried to empty it, tried to service it or something. Anyway, they were like, you have to take this plane. We're like, there's literally shit coming out of the toilet. Ugh. Like, you want us to fly this thing? And they're like, yeah. We're like, okay. Well, long ass mission, hydrating, all that kind of stuff. Dudes, no big deal. You got your bottle, cool. What the hell are females supposed to do?
Pull out the funnel.
Pull out the funnel.
Shiwi.
And the shiwi is exactly what happened.
Oh yeah.
Y'all, I remember I was telling one of my family members about that. I was like, yeah, it's called a shiwi. And they were like, what? I'm like, so you can stand up and go. And like, their brain just exploded. I was like, where are you supposed to go? Like, just civilians that don't think these things. But it's like, yeah, the people taking care of the planes, they have things they have to take care of too.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember for the life of me why that plane stayed so full of shit for, it was like 3 days.
I can tell you this. Never, ever, ever trust an open Gatorade bottle. I don't give a shit how thirsty you are.
Right.
Or a Dr. Pepper bottle.
Yeah.
Just any bottle that you can't see through, just don't trust it. Because beer bottles, no, definitely don't do that. Been there, done that. I drank like half a beer full of peppermint dip spit one time. That was not fun. Yeah.
Well,
oh God.
I tell you what blew my mind, Jen, was like the first time I realized how hardcore you were, and I saw you walk into a crew briefing with some skull citrus in, and you were like, "What's going on, y'all?" I think we may have had like, I had to fly to get recurrent or something like that. I don't remember. We were like on the same flight, and you're like, I was like, "Damn, girl!" And they're like, "You didn't know Walker dipped?" And I was like, "No." Like, yeah, dude, she was pulling Copenhagen snuff off me the other day, and I was like, Carolina.
Yeah. I don't understand why that's like this thing. Like, I remember people all the time, they'd be like, what are you doing? I'd be like, dipping, you want some? And they're like, but you're a female. And I can't remember who it was. I think it was Brian Billingsley. He goes, she's not a chick. She's just a dude with long hair. I was like, thank you. That came from the
Hey,
heart. I
Jim
can
was
tell.
tough. Jim was
Prim,
tough.
prim and proper has never defined Jen.
No.
No.
I remember my
No.
first time on a crew with Jen, and I mean, I'm still trying to fill myself out and stuff. And like literally, I walk up and she's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm doing good and everything." She was like, "Anybody get at you yet?" I was like, "Get at me yet? What are you talking about?" She's like, "Anybody get at you? You can use a friend in here. I can be a friend to you." And I was like, "What the shit is going on?" Like it was literally Shawshank Redemption Part 2. I don't know what the fuck was happening, but you know, one of them things.
I was trying to get to you first. Needing to make an ally. Yeah. I remember that one of the first few days on our crew together, I said something. I was always talking about being hungry. I'm hungry. I said
You
it.
like
And
chicken?
he goes, "You like chicken?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he's like, "Got some cockpit for you." I was like, "Oh my God." I
Oh
walked
yeah,
right into that one. Right
you
into
did.
that one.
Yeah, you did.
And then every now and then he'd just like peek around a corner somewhere, like we'd be at the AFAC or DFAC, or he'd turn around and be like, 1 and whisper it. That was his room number. 1. And he'd do the and walk away.
Oh yeah, it was a fun
It was
time.
it was such a good time.
Oh,
Yeah, but you need those, borderline unprofessional relationships to break the tension, because if you try to run around being a quiet professional all the time,
Mhm.
you will lose your sanity so quick. It's unbelievable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if you can't find somebody to commune with and make your ally, guess what? You're everyone else's enemy. And it doesn't matter if you have one, maybe two on your side. Because you get there and yeah, it's a crew of 13, but it's a bunch of small segregated little blocks uh of teams, not even teams, of just, gunners are always going to be gunners. It's always going to be 4 frat boys for the most part. I realize that, to all of you, Jamie, Holly, all the other gunners, Sarah, but for the most part, they're frat boys. And, even Chris Jetty said it, that he's like, we're the most unskilled people on the plane. And I was like, I mean, I don't think that. You guys know a hell of a lot about mechanical shit and NEW stuff. And he's like, no.
Devil's advocate, real quick. I'm sorry, but devil's advocate, gunners are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. They're always trying to give you hugs. I mean, they're nice.
Yeah.
They are,
Mhm.
and they're really intimate beings. They just really want that closeness that exists there.
Yeah, you
Inside
just
joke,
can't,
people. Inside joke.
you just can't get it wet, or feed it after midnight.
Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely.
Then we're safe.
Yeah,
Then we're safe. No, dude, some of the gunners on some of my trips, man, like think about the most random thing you can imagine and turn around at any point in time over an op, and that gunner, at least one, will be doing that thing. The
Fuck yeah.
dumbest thing.
I'm going to go ahead and do a shout out. Ben Naro. Holy
Ooh.
shit. That guy, like literally, I was like, has anybody ever drug tested Ben? I love Ben to death. He is my boy.
He would have had to have been home. He was never home.
No. Ben was like literally, if it was Vietnam and Ben Naro, yes, I'm talking about you. Ben was a guy that would be sitting there, dry shaving in the damn mirror with a fucking Bowie light and shit, talking about, I don't sleep much. I mean, like, wow. Yeah.
While he's rolling
I
a big
love
fat, tie stick,
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had that. That's the beauty of crewing with 13 people or 12 other people. And, there's other assets in Big Blue that have a whole bunch of people, but there is no such thing as the camaraderie in my mind, on AWACS or J-Stars or anything else with that big of a crew as there is in gunships. And it's, I really want to give credit to Chris Jetty on this, because we're right up on the edge of special operations. We are special operations. Now we're not operators, but we're right on the cusp, but we're not these other we're this stepchild that lives here because no one else in the entire, you know, the entire department does it. And so you do feel special and you do feel indoctrinated. And if you're not indoctrinated and drinking the Kool-Aid, you're not going to last very long in gunships. You have to become part of it, and you have to be more than willing to make fun of yourself, especially.
Oh yeah.
Like you just
Yeah,
eat that shit
for sure.
sandwich, and you just it's like, you know, there would be some games that gunners would want to play with you, you know, certain levels of chicken, and you
Mhm.
know, and you just back out of it. You know, most people would, and then you just realize that it's not going to stop if I don't press to test.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you start freaking them out, and you're like, okay, I'm making progress here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
but it's difficult when you're, you know, to kind of stand up for yourself and to establish some boundaries when you're a brand new crew dog,
Yeah.
you know? Like I was so young and vulnerable and impressionable, and there were definitely things that I had an idea that I thought was a normal situation. And now looking back on it, I'm like, that was not normal at all. That and none of that was okay. Um, and you know, but what do you do about it?
But you
You
would
know?
want to like to
Boy
give
Scouts
you
all over again for me.
to give props though, Jim, like you were one of the hardest people I'd ever met. Like it never seemed like anything got to you, you know,
Yeah.
and it was just, I don't know if it was a facade or what, but you were you, you could be just as vicious as they were, giving it right back to them. I don't know if it's because like you were partying with them on the weekends and stuff like that, and you know, uh, but I was just like, damn, she cuts deep. And it wasn't until
Well,
Yeah.
like we both ended up out at Cannon that, you know, I realized like, oh, you know,
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
it wasn't.
Yeah. Sorry.
Hey, it's where we ended up.
right.
It was
Hey, hey, hats off to you.
it was either we went on our own to do what we
Mhm.
wanted to do, or we ended up inspectors, because no offense to
Mhm.
all the rest of the loads, but they all hit the press to test and got out of there, and we were all the fresh NCOs.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
literally what made me
Every day.
inspiring is I got down to the point where it was you know, I could put 2 years on and advance in rank, or extend for 2 years and advance in rank, or I could just call it a day. And I seriously was considering the 2 years and advancing in rank. But Jeff Magipani, my boy, once again another engineer I flew with in Ramstein that came to Herbert Field. He let me know, he's like, "Hey, you're on the short list for Cannon." And I was like, "Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much," because that just made my life exponentially easier and my decision very easy. Because I on slicks, I stopped the Cannon a couple of times, and I was just like, "Holy shit!" Like when I went to safety school out at Albuquerque, New Mexico, literally people were coming up to Albuquerque and saying, "Oh, this is a happening place," and I'm sitting there like, Albuquerque, this right here is a happening place. Albuquerque is, and for anybody at Albuquerque, I'm sorry, but Albuquerque is like literally, it's dead. It is honestly dead. And like there was one damn bar / club there called the Library when I went through
Tell us
safety.
how you really feel.
Yeah, I mean it's a shithole. It's not a shithole as far as in the people and everything like that, but there's not a lot to do, you know? I mean, if you're one of those Ted Kaczynski, bombers, fucking out in a cabin in the woods by yourself.
Don't be talking about my family.
My bad, my bad. I mean, it's just there's not shit to do there. So when people are from Cannon or coming to Albuquerque because it's a happening spot, it's just like, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
what is going on, you know? It's just, yeah.
Well, you know, and I'm not going to beat this dead horse, but it's that timing thing, Jen, again, you know, where we're right on the cusp of it. And there literally was a lot of people before us because, I mean, you know, I got to the fourth in 07. I think you got there like right in 08. And like, I mean, just there. And then all of a sudden, 3 years later, we're looking at it's high time on station.
Right. Yeah.
Because everybody else there that had 10 plus went to Tausies or CRGs or whatever. And
civilian.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I mean, it's something. So, like for me and my kind of story, you know, I'll tell you one of the reasons why I left Gunships. I volunteered for the initial cadre for the MCJ, and knowing I was going out to Cannon. But I did that because it was a period in time in the war where things started getting really political. And
Yes. Amen.
there we were trying to fight a battle with our hands tied behind our backs. And it became, by the day, more and more increasingly difficult. I remember there was one particular time somebody comes banging on all the doors. We're right in the middle of crew rest. And they're like, we got troops in contact. We got to go. We got to go right now. One of our guys is hit. So we're like, fuck yeah, let's roll out. I mean, I'm rolling out like I don't even have my flight suit on. You know, I shoved a toothbrush in there and my boots were loose. And everybody runs to the van and we take off and we're like, yeah, we're going to go and handle business. We're going to bring our guys back. You know, we're going to do the mission, right? And so we get there, we find our guys, and the GFC is like, you guys are cleared hot. We can't move. We can't, we need help. And over one of the radios, there was a call that said something to the extent of,
𝐄𝐏𝐃𝐄.
for every round you expend, that's another year we have to stay here. Something like that.
Who gives a fuck? Plain and simple.
That for me was like, I'm like, hold on now. You're not here. Are you seeing what we're seeing? Because these guys need some fucking help. Like, this is literally our job. Also, why were we not with them in the first place? That's a whole different story. But you know, it really, really rubbed me the wrong way.
Amen.
And then on that particular deployment, I had a very, very close friend of mine who was KIA in Afghanistan. And his name is Danny Sanchez. He was a JTAC and really, really great person who was just killed entirely way too young. And that's kind of the point where, you know, we got the email that was like, hey, does anybody want to volunteer for this? And I had been kind of praying, like, what's the direction I need to go in? You know, I was primed for an instructor position, which I did. And then, you know, it just was it was eating me up, you know, because what if that situation hadn't turned out the way it did? You know, everybody made it back. And the guy who got hit, I guess it hit his helmet. Thank God he's okay. But you know, what if it had gone poorly? Then what would it still be our fault as well? Like,
right.
So I felt like I had seen it coming, and that the environment was just kind of shifting a little bit. And I remember we would take off, and I had this one navigator who would always take off and go down south, hole up over Bagram, and he would say, welcome to Gunship Air, where the only thing we kill here is time. And, you know, that kind of said to me, like, what am I doing? You know, the reason for me loving this job so much is disappearing right in front of my eyes. And I'm losing the people that I care about. And, you know, at that point I had lost a lot of people. So just wanted to change the scenery and go try and do something else. And went and did the MCJ, stand up the 522nd. That was so much fun. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I remember having that conversation with you because we were both getting exhausted on the being in gunships is never mundane, but it becomes monotonous.
It does.
Especially like you said, when your hands are tied, when you can't declare self-defense, when you're being used as a 13-man predator, and they're, the only shooting you're going to do is going to go out and tweak every 30 days. And so it at a certain point that, and I wanted, I feel like for me, and like I said, I remember this conversation you and I had one time, and it was like, I really want to try to do some real Loadmaster stuff, and I remember you, pressing a test and hitting that volunteer button, and then I punched in Sav medium, and then Baka punched in Sav light, and you would have thought we started a coup in the fort. Like,
dude, it was bad.
They were so mad at us.
They were so mad, like so mad. I remember. Okay, so there was one of the senior Loadmasters who had recently come back to the squadron, and that individual was on a tail swap over to our location when I had sent all these emails out to Senior Jetty. It's like, hey, I volunteer for this, blah, blah, blah. I also have to talk to my, supervisors, yada, yada, yada. And so I guess he felt blindsided by the choice that I made for my own personal life for some reason, and decided to kind of act a fool about it. Like emailing back home, this person, saying that I shouldn't be like to go, and I'm like, well, if you didn't like me that much, it should just be the best thing for me to do would be to leave. But that wasn't good enough.
I had a similar thing happen with the same individual, and it was we did that swap, you remember? And I thought that I was gonna be on the other end of that, and when they came on a tail swap, told me the same thing, and I was like, okay, well, I know where I'm going.
Right.
It's going to be on what I want to do.
Yeah, you and your reactions have only solidified my decision. Thank you for making it easy for me.
Yeah, and everybody acts like it's personal. Like, listen, you bunch of motherfuckers. Like, I'm the one going to Cannon, not you. Like, sorry if that puts you next on the list for
Can't take it personal.
No, but I mean, I went, and what's crazy is me, you, and Baka, we all went about the same amount of time. And then, he's the only one that didn't push out on medical. You and I both were done.
Yeah.
And I attribute a lot of that medical stuff because honestly, everybody wants to think that, I lay down for a living. It is one of the most detrimental things you can do to your back and your neck for hours at a time. On that position. Like, I'm still battling multiple degenerative disease issues. I know you have. I've kept up with what you're going through, Jen, and I see guys that were OGs for us that went through multiple neck surgeries and back surgeries and
dealing with the VA.
Yeah.
Oh.
Jeez.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely been tough. So like I was med boarded out, and I remember I was in the squadron just doing some work one day, and there was one of the guys is getting trained up on something specific on the plane, and they needed somebody else to go out and help them, right? And so I just was like, yeah, okay, I'll go out and help. And I remember we were doing infill-exfil exercises, which is the MCJ thing. And long story short, the canary slide kind of put me in a position where I ended up breaking my back. And I mean, I think I've had like 16 back surgeries total. I'm fused from L1 to S1, I think, and then like 2 or 3 levels in my neck. And, it was, it took forever for the MEB to get everything done, and was very, very scary. I had no idea really what was next.
And nobody walks you through it. They just you just left hanging.
Right. Yep.
If it wouldn't have been for Chief Randy Scanlon at the SOG at Cannon, I feel like I'd still be sitting in purgatory
Mhm.
because I mean, I found out like when I went through that one day I just woke up and I'd been trying to get a waiver on top of a waiver on top of a waiver. And I just woke up and I just remember going outside and like very clearly, whatever people want to believe, but like very clearly heard, the Lord tell me, like, what are you doing this for? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, why are you fighting? I was like, I have no idea. And I was like, because this is my job. And he's like, no, you're done. And I remember going into the flight doc's office and telling him straight up, like, I'm done. I'm not going to challenge it anymore. And he's like, good, because we weren't going to write it. I'm like, you've literally had me on DNF for like 13 months and you weren't going to write the waiver. He's like, no, we were hoping you were going to come to that conclusion. I'm just like, you oh, you sons of bitches, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, me, you, and Baca, we're all out at the same time. But I mean, I'll never regret it. I enjoyed going to NSAV. It was not gunship stuff, and I'm probably the same thing with Jay's. It was not gunships, but it's just a whole different animal.
Well, yeah, it was a whole different animal going from AC 130 to a MCJ because there's no flight engineer there, so the loadmaster becomes the loadmaster doing real loadmaster shit and flight engineer stuff. And so that was a challenge for me. I remember like my first airdrop, like, man, you'd have thought it was Christmas. I was like, hell yes, this is my jam right here. I really like this. And I mean, I did well, had all good test scores and performance stuff.
Yeah.
Everything was good. I really enjoyed it. And I didn't mind being at Cannon, mostly because, I like to do the outdoor stuff. So, whether it was go up to the lake for the weekend or just go skiing over a weekend or whatever.
I had an old engineer tell me when I got to Hurlburt that told me, like when I first got there, and he said, you can either love the mission and hate the location, or you can love the location and hate the mission. And I was like, I don't know if that's true. But the longer I was in gunships, I never hated the gunship mission. I hated the bullshit that came with being in gunships.
Yeah.
And that to me, it was never the people, it was never the mission. It was that you're out on the tip of the spear of policy. Do we engage? Do we not?
Yeah.
Can we engage? Can we not? And I never felt like I was really home at the beach anyway. So I was like, well, may as well go out there. And you know what? Surprise, surprise. I go to Cannon. I'm on the road even more.
Yep.
But, that's part of like, when you go to stand up a squadron, especially as an NCO.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely that way. I, being super young and I was single, not married, didn't have any kids, and I would stay up on my training and make sure that I was pretty much always deployable. And that's kind of what happened. I'd go out for a couple months, come home, maybe a couple months, go right back out the door. And, that's just the pace that was set for me to follow.
Right.
And so I kind of thought that was normal. And, you get to the point where you realize when you start to get to the point where you ask yourself, why am I doing this? I think that's a very dangerous place to be mentally.
Yeah. And I think that's like a body, your body and your psyche telling you it's time to consider doing something else or pushing the button.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Juan, I have go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I have a question for you because, we kind of, Jen and I got in a vein but
that's all good.
I really want to kind of pick at this for a minute, going from we talked about going from transport to gunships and things like that. But the first time you're overhead and you hear the spiel and it's, nav first start clear to fire and you're like, arm 2, what was that like?
It's almost like basically, and don't get me wrong, I will say this, anybody that wants war is a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and they're a liar.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I'm more of a moderate when it comes
Yeah.
to political nowadays and stuff like
Right.
that. I don't agree with either party, to be honest with you. But it's one of those things where I see a lot of chest thumping and we'll do this or we'll do that and shit like that. And I know right there, these motherfuckers have never served a day in their life. They're always talking shit because they don't have skin in the game. Anybody that's ever had skin in the game or has had like family members or any shit like that, you don't want that. But if it does come down to that, then I will tell you this. Military is a military. We're there to try and make things right and hold 9 yards. But one thing people need to realize, if it comes to a point where they got to call in a gunship, we're not there to win hearts or minds or any other bullshit like that. We're there to sow chaos and fuck the enemy up to where we bring them to their knees and bring them to heel. It's literally the mission of the AC-130s. We don't shoot guns or not. We don't shoot flowers out of cannons or anything like that. We shoot ammo out of the cannons. And literally, if it gets to a point where we got to talk, it's past the point of talking.
Yeah, we're there to kill people and break shit.
100%, 100%. Like I remember one of the first missions I went on. I can't really say the location where it was at or anything like that, but basically, I know, right? It was we had well, I mean, it's no secret we worked with all the teams and stuff like that. One of the teams got pinned down in an ambush, and it was coming from I think like the third floor of the building. So we started lobbing 105s into the building and in the side of the building, and we were at the right angle on top of the building. And I mean, we literally brought that building down for the most part. We had a couple of squirters, which, for the record, squirters is not missiles making it through or any other asinine bullshit fucking definition. Squirters are people that literally, once the shit starts, they start running out of buildings, jumping into trucks, trying to run and shit like that. That's what a squirter is. It's not a missile.
Thank you for that explanation. Please,
not a problem. Not a problem. It blew my mind when I heard that. I literally almost had an aneurysm. Like, what the fuck is this jackass talking? But it's but back on target. Literally, I mean, it's one of those things where when the shit hits the fan and you've got to do your job, it's, I don't know, for lack of a better term, it's when you're in there and you, like the first mission I had, it's one of those things where this is where everything that, like, Gary King, rest his soul in peace, Ronald Moggy, all of the instructors that I had at 19, this is the shit they prepared me for. And one of the main things I will say is when I came to Hurlburt and flew gunships, I was already an experienced flight engineer. And I mean, will I ever say I'm one of the top tier flight engineers? Hell no, because I am based in reality. I had way too much personal shit going on to say I was like even one of the best flight engineers. But I could get the job done and I was dependable. I will say this. It's one of those things where basically when you're actually called in and this is no longer training, this is no longer trying to prep you for a mission, this is the mission, people's lives are counting on you. And like I said before, if we're called in, it's past the point of talking. Then it's where, okay, this is where I need to calm myself, not get wrapped up in what you see on movies or video games of utter chaos and screaming and hollering and everything like that. You have to work in tandem with all your crewmates. That means the sensor operators, the gunners, the loadmasters, the pilots, the navigators, the EWOs, the everybody. You have to work in tandem with them. And there's a certain point, and I'll never forget this. There's a certain point where it's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, and then bam, it all gels. It's absolute calmness. Yeah, there's absolute calmness because it's like, we're in tandem. We all know what the fuck we're doing. We're all in sync, and this shit's going like a well-oiled machine. And don't get me wrong, there's always the X factor of some random shit, like something actually coming close to the airplane and hitting you, or something hitting the airplane or anything like that. But the main thing is that once it gels and you know that the shit you're putting out of the airplane is being effective, then it makes it all worth it. It makes it all worth all the long hours of studying. Makes it all worth the. Well, I'm
It's
kind
it,
of exposed on that. I was going to say it makes it all worth the missing family moments and stuff like that. In all
yeah,
honesty,
bro.
it's worth missing family moments. But the the I guess, for lack of a better term, the thing that makes it all right for missing the family moments is I know that when we do the mission and we do it right, we're making sure other people have family moments.
Yep,
So
exactly. I was going to say that.
yeah, that's what we're there for,
100%. And I don't know. I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but there was always, I asked this question last week, and I'll ask y'all, um, the palpable tension when the spiel is going off and you start feeling, this is going to sound like it's not necessarily like I'm taking it serious, but you start feeling the freedom boner lift. Like we're about to engage on behalf of the United States of America.
Oh yeah.
And you feel it, and then you feel the fangs and you feel the claws. It doesn't matter your position, whether you have a screen or you're staring into the black abyss in the back, like, we did, Jen. You knew you were part of it. And all of a sudden that first round goes out, and then you hear, "Gunny," and you're like, it's on. And there's an excitement, not because like we're happy, but at the same time,
Fight is on.
the fight is on. And if you don't get that adrenaline hit, it's time to get out of gunships.
Yep.
100%.
Completely.
There's times when like I would go with, I'd have like a couple of young gunners after I'd done a handful of rotations, and they're like, "Oh hell yeah, get them," and and you're just like, I remember when like that was me, and like I was so high strung about it that I was like, I was expecting to be fired upon, especially when firing. Like, and it just pucker factor went, and I was like, it's time to do the job. But there was an element of professionalism that I would say 99.3% of us took it as. And I loved fangs and claws out. And when you go a full rotation and you never let them out, you're just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like,
Yep.
I'll tell you, one of the most disheartening things for me was, in my experience with the gunships, was right around the time I retired. It was to the point of, and like we kind of touched on it earlier, with our hands tied behind our backs, like certain administrations in the area we were operating in, everything had to come through them.
Yeah.
Everything had to get clearance through them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't American administration. It was
you had to get
administration.
You had to get consent from the local mayor, and they'd go tell somebody. And
Facts.
by the time you got there, it was blue and
we
blue.
were always hitting dry holes. Like literally, all our ground crew were hitting dry holes. But the second we were like, "Hey," and we mission plan for this area right here, wink, wink, and then let's go check over here real quick. And then we started hitting targets and actually getting the people that we were supposed to get. It was like, that confirmed for me. It's like, and don't get me wrong, I'm all about winning hearts and minds after we have to handle business. But it's at a certain point, like I said before, if you're calling in gunships, we're past the point of winning hearts and minds. We're there to fuck shit up and bring the enemy to heel. And don't get me wrong, I'm not like I said, I'm not a warmonger or any shit like that, because anybody in their rightful mind will never want war. But if we are forced to that point, then you can't go in there giving quarter. You have to overwhelm the enemy with superior numbers, superior firepower to bring them to realize this is not going well for us and we need to negotiate.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't, when you are the last person, in that consent equation, and you arm, it's not a bang flag that comes out of those guns.
Facts.
And yeah, I think one of the most gratifying pieces is of being coming from gunships is for the majority of the Air Force, the active duty component, outside of active fighters and things like that right now, and a handful of contingencies and STS. That's our job. It's our bread and butter. Our job is to engage. So I
100%.
always thought it was like, this is not a me thing. This is a gunship observation. But sitting next to a colonel at some senior master sergeant with 20 something years in, and your salad bar, is 5-6 rows deep, and they have like 9, and you're just looking at them like, I've been in 7.5 years.
Yeah.
What the hell? And then especially when we start getting AF cams, it's like the proudest medal that I got out of anything, and it was just because we got shot at and we returned it, and to me, because it always like, what's that one? And you're like, none of your
Combat action medal. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then, you'd get stuck right in your own shit. Like, I remember,
Yes. Facts.
I remember one time, I can't remember who it was, came up to me and they're like, dude, you're like 3 behind. I'm like, 3 behind? 3 what behind? They're like, air medals. Where are your air medals? I'm like, I have no idea. Is that my job too? Is my job to write my own medals? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I just wish I'd have known that. But yeah, something I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
We're talking about how there's a period in time where a lot of the instructors and evaluators and people in leadership positions in general wanted to make sure, it seemed like everyone wanted to make sure that we were 100% understanding that taking lives was going to be a part of doing the job. And when I go back and think about it, wasn't there was a downrange mission where something happened and someone on the crew did not want to give consent to fire?
Yes, I know exactly what it was. It was an FE.
Yeah, it was flight engineer.
Yeah, it was a
And
flight
I
engineer that
think,
worked MCC.
yeah, I remember hearing about that. And I remember thinking back then, oh, this is why they're so hard. This is why they're so hard on us, because you don't want to be in that position.
It's because they had an enemy that was down, but as anybody that's ever been in combat will tell you, down does not equal out.
No.
So they wanted to, well, I can't use it. They wanted
Neutralize
to kill him, but they wanted to confirm that he was killed. And the engineer did not want to arm the guns to make sure that the threat was eliminated. And at that point, what's the options? The only options you have are to have ground forces go in there and visually confirm. Well, the problem with ground forces going in there and visually confirming is that, I mean, I can be mortally wounded, but as long as I got consciousness and can hold on to a grenade or hold on to a trigger.
Or could have had an S-vest and, a million other things. You don't, you're already, there's enough risk being taken there. You can't mitigate it past that.
Exactly.
And yeah, no, that's one of the stories 100% that it was like, yeah, I heard that when I first got there. And then I actually went back when I worked in tactics and listened and watched the video on it. And I was like, he was completely wrong for because that was like every other mission we've ever done. If they're still moving, we're not going to go, because when I was in Afghanistan, there was a team that like had went in and hit a target, and I think a wife of one of the local 𝐓𝐇𝐈𝐒s had popped up behind a couch or something and shot one of them, and the PJs or whoever went in, hooked her up and fixed her, and they went out another op a couple weeks later when she was all better, and she like clacked off an S-vest. And you're just like, what are we doing? I understand, but at the same time, it doesn't give me pause. you kind of got to know. And that engineer, you know, he came from rotors as well, I believe.
He did.
And you know, it's you're 100. You were on the target, Jen. Like, you have to know and be comfortable assuming not even the risk, but the action. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah. I'll say this, and I'm not trying to down them or anything like that, because I mean, everybody can have their own, it doesn't even go on political. Everybody can have their own opinion about combat and shit like that. But the thing is this, you're not on a regular 130. You're on an AC 130.
the
You
A
are
stands
on
for
a
attack.
gunship. So before you even get in the gunship, it goes past the point of, hey, this is cool. I'm flying a cool mission, or hey, I'm earning a paycheck or anything like that. You have to understand that, hey, I am here for the sole purpose of taking lives. That's our only mission, to take lives. We're not there I mean, yes, we're there to support our ground forces and shit like that. But anybody can, I mean, the surveillance planes at Harbor can support ground forces, but they can't take lives. We are there to take lives and to make the enemy think twice and disengage. We're there to bring the enemy to heel. So if you have a problem with that, then at that point in time, when you first join the squadron, or when you're going through the vetting process of the squadron, and you read the full, I guess,
Mission profile.
yeah, the mission profile, you need to understand it's not something that could happen. It is something that will happen. And if you're uncomfortable with that, then that is your time to say, hey, I'm uncomfortable with that. Or, hey, I might have objections depending on the situation or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying go and blast a building full of kids or any shit like that. But I'm saying it's one of those things where literally not only are the people on the ground depending on you to do your fucking job, but the people in the air depend on you to do your fucking job. Because the thing is this, when you're actively engaging the enemy, or vice versa, the enemy is actively engaging you, then I don't give a shit if it's a kid, if it's a pregnant woman, if it's a full-grown fucking man that looks like the Big Show pissed off a cane. If you are sitting there pointing a weapon at friendly forces or pointing a SAM at any aerial target, then you've got to go. You understood the risk before you even pick shit up. So it's one of those things where,
And it's that simple. Like, it
Yeah.
is very much so, at least for me in all my experiences, it was literally that simple. It doesn't matter who you are. These are my guys. I'm here to protect them. So
Fact.
I don't care who you are. If you threaten my guys, fuck around and find out, and we'll show you just how much.
yeah. And you accept
And that
you
happened.
accept the risk, just like we
Right.
accept the risk. If you pick up that weapon on the battlefield, if you engage friendly targets on the battlefield, you are accepting the risk, plain and simple. So there
Mhm.
is no boo-hoo or this, that, or the other, or oh, they're no longer. Yeah, fuck that. They
Yeah.
accepted the risk, so they got to pay the price.
Like, I
wouldn't
remember
expect the
one
enemy to have
time.
any fucking quarter or any shit like that for me if it comes down to the fact of, if they tell me to surrender and I'm still fighting and it goes down to hand, any bullshit like that, you know? The risk is
Yeah.
the risk.
I remember one time, long story short, there was a body of water, and on one side were our guys, and on the other side were friendly forces. Um, and I remember, for whatever reason, they were shooting at each other, and I remember having a conversation with someone in the AFAC about, what that would mean. Like, they were asking me, like, hey, you would be going into this knowing that those are friendly forces. Would you, like, how do you feel about having to treat, friendly forces as the enemy to protect your guys? And like, I didn't really have a problem with it. I know there were people that did. I know after that mission, the crew, majority of the crew, I think they had to go through some kind of like debrief process. And that was really the first time, like, for me, where it even became a question. You know, like for me, it was an automatic response. Like, oh, you want to mess with our guys? Okay, let's go. Let's go.
And always friendly.
Right. You know, and that was really a particular mission where I kind of thought, oh shit, this is a little bit more complicated than I understand. You know, I was there, and me and my younger mind, you know, I always assumed that I would just do that job forever, until I died.
Can I say one thing on that real quick?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What training and in your Air Force career ever prepared you for that moment?
Oh, I had zero, none.
And that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. As far as in like gunships were thrust in those moments where I don't give a shit how well you think you're prepared or what training you have or anything like that. It's those moments that literally it puts you in a situation that, I mean, like the Section 3 and the TOs, everything's written in blood. It puts you in those moments where policy is going to be made. It's literally every situation. There's the first time somebody's ever seen it. So in shit like that, it's just one of those things where you have to, I'm not going to say go on your base instincts, but you have to use your best judgment for the information you're given at the time and make the best call you can, knowing full well that the actions you take are going to have ramifications. So you have the pressure of, is this shit going to be seen as far as in by friendly forces, by my government and everything as me violating the law of armed conflict or the rules of engagement? Or am I going to be seen as doing the right thing? That's a lot of stress for, especially people on their first combat mission or first deployment and shit like that. You know, it's a lot of people don't understand that because you've got a lot of people sitting there and, well, you know what? No, I don't even hate to say it. I'm just going to say it. I see a lot of motherfuckers wanting to run around in all this tactical gear and bullshit and beards and the baseball hats and bullshit. Like, oh, I'll do this, that, and the other. But it has never served a fucking day in their life. Or they hit you with, oh, I was going to serve, but this, that, or the other. Fuck them because they weren't going to do shit. Because plain and simple, if you're going to do it, you'd fucking do it. And that's that's 100%.
Don't be hating on my beard brothers.
No, I'm just saying. No, I ain't on a beer, brother.
I'm growing mine out. I'm growing mine out. Can you tell?
Yeah, Jen.
Well, you've always got a nice mustache, Jen. But you know,
no, bro. I hear exactly what you're saying. You know, I hate that shit too. Let me take this a little bit further, okay?
Yeah, please. Because I mean,
I don't remember.
It's dependent on us to be honest, so that people watching this know the perspective of real people that are out there operating and working with the teams. You know,
I meant to ask this a couple episodes back, but it's come up now. I don't know if y'all ran into this, but I did at Eglin. We were doing an air show.
Go.
This was right after Modern Warfare was released. And we had some orca whale sized individuals coming up on the gunships and asking the question for us to confirm if they were a level 70 general in COD, if they got a direct, the way that this kid said it to me was a direct commission to be a sensor operator. I'm like, well, sensor operators aren't commissioned. But no. And he was like, well, that's not what I heard. And I'm like, well, I'm telling you, I fly with these guys. And if they're level 70 generals in COD, we don't know it. So maybe it's like just, you know, awfully fortuitous that they are and they're a sensor operator, but it's not codependent. And that was one of those things because for the majority of the public's initial first consumption of anything AC-130 gunship related was one of two things. It was Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, or it was Transformers.
Yep.
It was one of the. I
Transformers.
can't tell you how many times going out of the
Lightsaber
range,
rounds. No.
over the range, Rocky Stanley and some team from 𝐓𝐸𝐈𝐒 or wherever else is out there, and they're like, "We got a robotic scorpion 850 meters away. Use the Sabo rounds," and you're like, "There it is,
What are they talking
Sabo
about?
rounds."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I feel you.
But
Let me ask you guys this.
I stopped trying to explain it. I'm just like, yes, exactly like Transformers. Yep.
Exactly like
I
Transformers.
love those Sabo rounds. Yep.
You
Yep.
guys
I just
remember a
argue.
guy in the fourth named Bone?
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
Tiva Sagbone?
yeah,
T-Bone? Yeah.
Okay, on record. And I hope he's watching right now. Fuck Bone. I know you're cheating on our Call of Duty fucking contest, man.
Okay,
I
so-
love Bone to death, but I know he was fucking cheating.
okay.
Because I'm going to tell you right now, the way he was sneaking up on people, shooting them in the back of the head, putting them in an embarrassing ass friggin' kill moves, and yeah, fuck that. He was cheating. Plain
So
and simple.
let me caveat that real quick
you,
for you,
Colin.
okay? In 2010, I believe, do you remember the Miami Heat came and did their spring training? This was right
Yeah.
before the Transformers thing, okay?
I do remember that.
Owen and I were on the crew that went out and did the dog and pony show for the Miami Heat, right? So one of their guys is in the back, and like he's like, I can't remember his name, starts like an S. He was like 7'2", and he's like hitting his head and everything. And he was like, "Yo, man, it'd be cool if you guys like played COD." And Bone is like, "I play COD," and
Bone was actually ranked.
I
needless to say.
know that. And so Bone's like, at the end of the day, I was like, "Bone," you know, we asked him. He's like, I got his screen ID, his Xbox ID or whatever.
Fucked up.
And,
That
Oh,
dude
and I'm
Lord.
like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, how'd it go?" He's like, "He beat my ass."
Wait,
and I was like,
beat Bone's ass?
"Yeah, dude, this was the pick."
You got to be shitting me, Zoom.
No, it's that dude
fuck?
right there next to me with the glasses, and then there's little Bone. Yeah, that dude was.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, he was saying that dude was awesome and like smashed him.
All right, hold on.
And you know what, Bone? If I'm
we're gonna have
wrong, Bone,
integrity, not you spouting lies. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, short of Jesus, maybe Stephen Hawkins or Tyson DeGrassi, ain't nobody beating Bone on Call of Duty.
no, now probably not. But I'm talking about like 2010. I don't know, Bone. If
And
I'm
he
wrong,
beat Bone.
Bone. If I'm wrong, you please
Holy
come
shit.
dispute me. I've
Dude, I'm
you
gonna
know,
tell you, and I talk shit, but Bone whipped my ass fair and square. I mean, he fucked me up.
I
And
want to say
that's
that
not the shit I regularly say.
no, I've reached out to Bone. He didn't respond about the show, but I
Probably because he's too busy downloading cheat codes.
probably so. I mean, but it was just funny that these Miami Heat pro basketball players are wanting to, you know, compete in gunships against actual guys who fly gunships.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just always thought that was pretty
Well,
cool. These guys like,
hold
I want
on.
to play against you.
I'm going to say this, and all disrespect to the Miami Heat. That is because they make so much money, they can spend all their fucking time playing Call of Duty when the rest of us are out there living Call of Duty. I'm just going to put that out there.
Oh my God.
I'll let you boy. You know what I'm saying? I'll let you boy.
I
Shit.
love it. Hey,
Yeah.
you know what? This is what I kind of actually hoped would happen was through the stories, call outs would be made and people would have
All
to
that's
answer.
been paid.
People would have to answer
Yeah.
those call outs.
Fuck yeah. Hey,
you know-
not one. Holler at me and my crew, the Afros. You'll probably fuck us up, but you know, it's one of them things.
I'm gonna have to give one of my first deployment trip shout out to Holly John (stop). So like I said, I got very lucky in my first deployment, and we ended up rooming together, even though we're on the same crew.
Jen.
Yeah.
I thought we agreed we weren't going to talk about that because I was married. I'm just like,
So we're sleeping in the room, right? It's the middle of the night, which is the middle of the day. And all of a sudden I hear this noise and it sounds like something's dragging across the floor. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And so I grab my flashlight or my headlamp and I turn it on. And no, it was Holly in the middle of the night because our smoke detector kept beeping. So
Mhm.
she had pulled her freaking hard case out, was standing on top of it with a Swiffer mop, and was beating the ever living shit out of the smoke detector.
Oh yeah,
I'm like,
I'm-
what
That's
are
about
you
right.
doing?
Jen, I'm just letting you know that video you just did is going to make for great gifts.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Hey,
Okay, well,
I'm just
it's
saying,
Holly's
I'm
fault.
downloading it right now.
I ain't saying, I'm just saying.
Yeah. And I'm like, Holly, what are you doing? You just untwist it. You just twist it and it comes out. You just take the battery. It's okay.
Well, that's
She
when you
looked like
realize
some
twisting
creature
motion
that
that
in
she
the
would
night
use.
that I had caught her in the middle of something.
Show me the twisting motion that she would use.
I can twist these fingers just fine.
I'll
Fuckers.
be right back.
Adios.
Oh my God. Yeah, no,
Um,
those were good times. It was definitely, we had kind of talked a little bit, or you kind of talked a little bit about it. I definitely went through some shit in my early days in my career. And
you
I
were
got
scary, Jen. You were
well,
scary because,
dude,
like,
I didn't know how to deal with it. So
well, you didn't know, you couldn't tell if it was like false bravado or if you like had, female elephantitis
yeah,
because like you, I don't know. I think because at that time, like, I hadn't gone to college or anything like that. And you were already, accomplished in all these things. And I knew you were smart as hell, but you like to party too. And so
yeah,
it was
oh
just
yeah,
kind of like, how do you compete?
yeah. Well,
Um,
it was. I feel like my saving grace as a AAA partier was also the fact that I was somewhat smart. And it's not that I'm like naturally smart or anything. I just work hard. Um, like I remember, oh my God, like all I wanted to do was be good at the job. I wanted to be good at the job and have everybody just treat me like another person. And uh, it, what ended up happening was pretty interesting. I just kind of studied hard and then it would seem like something would happen. So like I remember right before my first deployment, um, I was out in Pensacola Beach and with some friends out on a boat. We drove over to Pensacola to watch the Blue Angels air show. And storm came up really quick out of nowhere. And I think it was Brian Belden that was talking about how people in Florida, like lightning was not a joke. Yeah,
yeah.
that was me there. So, my friend James Willis ended up passing away, had to do CPR, and his body made it another week. Unfortunately, he didn't regain consciousness or anything. Um, but it was weird because 2 days after that, I was scheduled to fly, and one of our friends came into the squadron and was like, "Hey, Jen, do you have your wings? We want to give a set of wings to his parents." And I was like, "This would mean absolutely everything. Like, let me do it." And so I grabbed my wings, and like it really got me kind of emotional. And I had a guy who's a gunner, and we were just going up to do dry fire stuff. And he was like, "What's wrong with you?" And for whatever reason, then I kind of opened up. And so he, I guess, kind of taught me how to compartmentalize it. So, he was like, "These are the things we can do on the plane. Let me teach you something, let me teach you something about the guns. Like, let me take you and help you and keep your mind focused." And it really kind of helped be able to make it through it. It was interesting when I was in my deployment a few weeks later. Our plane got struck by lightning. I think that was that deployment. And we had like a hole in the radome that was like huge, but it scared the shit out of me. And the entire rest of the crew scared the shit out of them too. But I think they were like, "Is Jen okay?" It's like, "I know we just got struck by lightning. This is like 2 times in the span of a month for her. Is she okay?" I think there was some concern there. And it really kind of it meant everything to me to have someone say, "Hey, you don't look okay." It's like,
Yeah.
what's going on? And there were I mean, pretty much everyone would do that, in their own way. You'd see somebody moping, be like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you know, but that's expressing care. And, it's a kind of care that happens automatically and you don't even realize it.
Right.
Like I remember I had a crew one time where one of the gunners was a mouth breather and he was so loud. And I'd be like, Gaston,
Even one of the gunners. They're all
turn
mouth.
your mic off. Turn your mic off. Turn your mic off. Just turn it off. Yes, that's exactly what it sounded like. That's exactly what it sounded like. But then another crew came in and they went to go say something to him. And I was like, I can make fun of my gunner. I can want to kill my gunner. You cannot.
Facts.
Step back. This is my gunner. Okay. And I remember being like, ew, did I just do that? But, people you hate, but you take a bullet for them to see them get home to their families. And
Facts.
it's one of those things that you can't really describe.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the thing that I miss the most, is being in an environment of people who are hard chargers, people who are get shit done.
Yeah, definitely.
I
I
miss that.
want to kind of peel that back here. We got about 15 minutes left before we'll close. And in terms of the transition, I actually wrote this question earlier, and it makes me, and I wanted to touch on it. Do you feel like your times in gunships made you a better, more efficient decision maker?
You want to go, Juan?
I would say yes. It's
It kind of caveats back to earlier when you were talking about, having to make that instinctual decisions.
Oh yeah. I would say it definitely helped me make like on the cuff instinctual decisions because I mean it's one of those things where after I left the military, I literally joined law enforcement where it's one of those things where I was with the sheriff's office. I retired in November of 2012 and started the academy in January of 2013. So it was literally no break, basically straight into it. Ended up working with a local law enforcement agency with the sheriff's office. And, I don't work for them anymore. So I'm just going to be honest. One of the main things that I saw that was disheartening is so many people wanting to emulate the military. And they're so hell-bent on their next promotion and wanting to, well, the military does like this, military does that, but they've never served a day in the military. And it's like, if you're so hell-bent on wanting to be like the military, then take your ass and join the military.
Raise that right hand and get after it.
Take your ass, join the military if you want to do that. But don't ever have the audacity to tell somebody that has been there and done that how the military runs. Because I have seen more shit than you will ever think about. Plain and simple. And the fact is, once again, I love all my military brethren and I love all my law enforcement brethren. And I will say this. The thing is this. When you are because my brother's SRT, when you're on an SRT team, a lot of times you are going in there with a known situation and a known suspect or subject, however you want to call it. And you are, for lack of better terms, the odds are stacked in your favor. And yes, unfortunately, there are times where law enforcement takes losses, and God bless them that have given and paid the ultimate sacrifice for that. But it's not like the military when you go in there and you don't know who the fuck is friendly and who is not. And like a person is smiling at you 1 second will pull out a fucking gun and shoot you the second, or a surface to air missile and knock your ass out of the sky on the second, shit like that. If you are that hardcore wanting to be this, that, or the other, or whatever the fuck you think you are, can go do that. But don't for one fucking second think that you're better than anybody else that signed their name on the fucking contract with the local law enforcement office and literally is risking their life every day, every night, going out there to help make the community a better place, plain and simple, because you're not. And I don't give a shit what your rank is, how the fuck you think you came up, or anything like that. And I'm sorry if I'm digressing, but plain and simple, you are modeling yourself after people that have actually been there and done that. And I don't give a shit if they are working finance, if they are working fucking SEAL team or whatever in the military, from the lowliest to the highest. You have no idea the fucking sacrifice. So thank you. And much appreciated. Like I said before, I don't give a shit what my differences are from anybody I've ever served with in gunships and everything. My thing is this: I will still, whether I like you or not, whether I have personal disagreements with you or not, walk into a room and put my life on the line to make sure you get out of there safe and sound.
Yeah.
Go home to your family.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that people don't understand is that in the military, yes, but especially when you are a tight-knit group, like a crew on an aircraft, especially gunships or special operating teams, there's something there that I don't give a shit. Like literally, but I'm just going to say it. You could be the most racist redneck out there. If you're on my fucking team at that point in time, I'm going to make sure, to the best of my ability, no harm befalls you, and we both get the fuck back to base.
Yeah. It's
I like that.
It's like
that for sure.
It's like I heard. One second, Jen. It's like, and then you're cleared hot. I heard it when I got to gunships. Trust your brothers with your life, but not your money, husband, or wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we get back home, different story. But when the shit is getting thick and when it's getting real, when we're at that point where very few fucking people in this world can ever imagine the decisions we have to make, the shit we're going through, it totally changes every fucking dynamic in there.
So I think what I'll say is, I had a pretty rough transition from military lifestyle out into the civilian world. I got out initially and went to school, took some time off, and kind of gallivanted the world, and came back and ended up settling where I live now in North Charleston. But I find myself a lot of times missing that camaraderie and missing that closeness that you have with somebody, or with so many, a big group of people. And certainly the way the issues are handled is much different on the outside than it is in the military.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I think, probably my biggest struggle is learning to communicate in a way that is acceptable to other civilians.
Yeah.
There are times when I come across as abrasive and bossy.
What? You?
Yeah, I know, right? Who, me?
How dare them say that about you?
And not everyone, receives that the same way.
A lot of people don't appreciate the directness of gunship.
They don't. Like I can't look at one of my
around and sugarcoat shit.
No, the fucking baby's ugly.
Exactly.
I mean, it is
exactly. And I just can't go to my coworker and be like, dude, what the fuck is your problem? You're being a real bitch right now. Can you square yourself away? Like, put yourself back together. Let's go. I can't do that to my coworkers now. I'd get fired in a heartbeat. And my mouth gets me in too much trouble. It doesn't need to be open that much.
Yeah, I've realized in my transition, I have to eat a lot of what I want to say, and I hate it. I've had a dog shit transition for the most part, and it's hard because you can pay all the attention you want to in taps and all that other bullshit, but nobody tells you that when you get out, being part of a gunship unit, you know better than to trust everybody all the time,
Yes.
but you know there is a minimal level you can trust at.
Mhm.
And then you get out and somebody throws veteran at you and you're like, oh, implicit trust. And then they stab the shit out of you.
As I
and
say,
you're
I've been
like,
fucked over by many a veteran.
oh,
Mm.
the worst cuts I've had since I've been out now 12 years have been by veterans.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
They're the, and I hate saying this because it makes me sound like I'm like trying to blow smoke or anything, but it's fucking
No.
conventional guys.
People that have served understand fully what you're talking about. I'm going to tell you that.
And it's conventional vets that they couldn't even fucking spell soft.
Mm.
Like legitimately, those dudes are the fucking worst because they're the TEAR ones, and everything. And you're just like, oh, yeah. So
I'm going to tell you like this.
Yeah.
As my dear friend, one of my best friends, Bill Gerard, I've served with him with the sheriff's office. He always says, everybody wants to be gangster until it's time to do gangster shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's the same in civilian, it's the same in the military, it's the same everywhere around. It's everybody wants to have that machismo, whether you're man or woman or whatever you identify as, and shit. You want to be the top ass kicker or something like that. And the thing is this: everybody needs to understand, no matter how tough you are, no matter how badass you are, there's always somewhere out there that is and will whoop your ass. So be humble. Be humble.
Mm-hmm.
We can't all be the star of a Taylor Sheridan show, I mean,
well, we'll see about that.
Gunships are, and don't get me wrong, I will put gunships against anything other than a fighter jet. But as badass as gunships are, we can't get humbled by a surface air missile.
Real quick,
by anything out there.
We can get humbled by a pilot that doesn't want to wear NVGs in the mountains.
Bam. Yeah. Been there, done that. It's literally.
Haven't we all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Flying fucking donkey.
And one of my biggest lessons learned, because I know you got to wrap it up soon and everything, but I got as much time as you do.
You're good.
One of my biggest lessons learned is this. I know, and if you talk to anybody, they'll tell you I'm not the best flight engineer, gunship flight engineer, or even one of the top tier flight engineers and everything like that. And that's a personal opinion. Because of that, I say, fuck them. Fuck them and their mama with lipstick on. But other than that, and not making excuses, but I was going through a lot of personal shit when I was in the 4th because my wife was always sick. We were trying to, because we couldn't conceive kids, we were trying to, I guess for lack of a better term, finish up the adoption of the 2 kids we were fostering and everything like that. It wasn't until after I actually retired that the first appointment that I had with the medical doctor, he called us in and he's like, hey, you need to come in and see us as soon as you can. And I'm like, what is it? Tell us. He's like, no, you need to come in. I got a little bit of that like back ear tingling, like what the fuck is going on and shit like that. So then we went there and then when sitting down in the doctor's office, he told us both, she has cancer. So I was like, all right, so what's our best option going forward? How can we treat this and get through this and everything? And he looked me in the eyes and he said, she has cancer. At that point in time, it was one of those, I don't know if it was an unspoken understanding between gentlemen or whatever the fuck it was, but it hit me like a sack of bricks because I knew right then and there that she wasn't going to make it. Yeah. And no matter what, we went and pressed through it the whole 9 yards. Now, mind you that since I got to Ramstein 2000, or not Ramstein, but Herbert in 2009, 2012, I was at Ramstein from 2005, 2009. So when we got married in 2005 and she came to Ramstein with me, she's Japanese, or she was Japanese. the whole time we were at Ramstein, no real symptoms or anything like that until the later years at Ramstein, and they were treating her and they were misdiagnosed her left and right. Where Herbert, with the whole 9 yards of the appointments, everything like that, where they are misdiagnosing her at Ramstein. I'm sorry, not Ramstein, but Herbert Field and Eglin, the bigger base. And like they put her on all types of shit, warfarin, the whole 9 yards, because plain and simple. And I hold animosity and I'll caveat to what this is coming to. I hold animosity and I hold anger towards it, but I'm learning and dealing with letting it go.
Yeah.
Because it is what it is, and I cannot ring a bell. But
You can't, and it's just going to eat at you. It just eats you alive.
Exactly. And that's why I'm working at just, it is what it is. And because I have to understand the people on the other end making the calls are human, and it's not perfect. They're going to make errors.
Yeah.
But after I retired, the first fucking medical appointment me and her had, and the kids had, because at that point we'd already adopted the kids. And not caveat, but go off. I'm not a side street, but I literally was supposed to be there for the adoption of my 2 kids, but the colonel of the 4th SOS came to me and said, "Hey, flight engineer just dropped out. Would you be willing to fill the position for us?" And I told him, I am literally within 8 months of retiring. I have out processing the whole 9 yards. I said, the only way I'll do this is if we make a gentleman's agreement that you can personally guarantee I will not be messed with or anything like that when I come back from deployment, and I'm able to out process and get all my shit done. I've never retired from military before, so I didn't know how long retiring takes. It is a shit ton of pain. But he said, deal. So I sucked it up. I went on deployment. And that's where I go to before my story. I was supposed to be at home when my kids got adopted. I was not at home. I was deployed. I was supposed to be able to attend a Zoom meeting when my kids got adopted. And wouldn't you know, hey, we got troops in contact. We got to take. Go, go, go. So up on the plane, out there, beeline it to the fucking fight. And shit like that. And we actually did. That's one of the fights where we actually did engage and shit like that. But the whole time I was fully in the fight, but my mind was like, fuck.
Yeah.
I feel like shit because I'm not making, my kids are being adopted, I feel like shit. Luckily, the judge that did the whole thing in the Escambia County, he stood in for me. And it's a sweet spot in my heart, but it's also kind of that I fell as a father. He stood in as my place for the whole adoption picture where the father would stand and shit like that. But I have nothing but gratitude for the judge because he actually stood in place for me. But long story short, it's one of those things where you have to, and I'm talking this for anybody past, present, or future, you have to make the decision what is not more valuable to you, but you have to make the decision what takes precedence in your life. And you have to thoroughly make an informed decision and measure it out. Because had I known then what I know now, it's one of those things where I probably would not have gone the same route I went, because I didn't know at the time my wife was fighting cancer, stomach cancer. It wasn't until we got the first appointment with the off base, a doctor, after I retired, that he was like, hey, you need to come in. And that's when he told me my wife had stage 4 cancer and it was already past the point. We tried to fight it. I think he knew what the fuck was going on. And I love him to death. Dr. Joel Redmond, excellent doctor. I would recommend him to anybody in Navarre, Fort Walton Beach area. But it was one of those things where he when I asked him, well, what stage is it? What are we looking at? Or anything like that? Is it early enough where we can catch it? He's like, you need to understand it's cancer. He's like, the whole stages thing, it's cancer. And he was trying to tell me with her in the room, but without giving her disheartening information, she's not going to make it. I didn't understand it at that point in time, but I understood further down the road where it became more obvious and everything. Because my wife was never a big woman. She was 120 at her max. But when she died, she was barely 70 pounds. So
Wow.
that shit was like, it was literally, well, fuck it. But the
Well,
thing,
I'm sorry for your loss, dude. That's got to be that's incredibly tough, and
but it
that's
is,
kind of I dealt with kind of the same stuff.
yeah.
Whether it's always
Ellen got
being
the
out
same
on the
stuff.
road or uh, you know, missing all of these important things back home, and I had this false sense of, that I'm always going to remain friends and I'm always going to be this close as close as I am now, with so and so and yada
Right.
yada yada.
Times change, man.
And so but I kind of built up a little bit of a resentment there for a while, when I got out and I didn't hear from anyone, and I wasn't doing well and I needed support.
No, I will tell
And
you this,
it's
Jen.
taken me a long time to kind of work through that and be like, the only person at the end of the day, the only person who's responsible for my happiness is me.
100%.
Um, and that I need to adjust my expectations of others or I'm going to
Right.
be perpetually disappointed.
I'll tell you this, Jen, and I love you to death. I'm never going to bullshit you or shoot you sideways or anything like that. But the one thing that it took me a long time to understand, but I need to tell you because someone told me this. It's this. Everybody's got their own personal life and their own struggles to go through and everything like that. But that being said, you have to understand that I might not contact you or whoever or different individuals might not contact each other left and right and shit like that. But no matter where you left off, your true friends will pick up with you right where you left off and everything. And we had that one conversation. I don't know if you remember or not, but
I do. I
regarding
do.
my job and the things you were going through and everything. And it's just like, I get it. I understand it. It was fucked up what happened, but you have to understand this. I'm
Yep.
proud of you, no matter what the
Aw.
look is, but I'm proud of you because in my job and seeing that there's so many motherfuckers that have failed. And I mean, motherfuckers that have laid a lot more on the lines than us, but have failed. So I'm proud of you. And
Thank you.
I'll never take that back. And it's just, it's an inside thing. And I apologize to anybody that doesn't understand what I'm talking about, but it's an inside thing.
No worries.
One of the things with military is we value each other's personal privacy and stuff like that. We all have struggles because,
Hmm.
and I'll even put it out there. After my wife passed, I dealt with some hard times. And it was one of those things where it was really, really hard times. And, but for my kids, I probably would not have been around. But the thing is this, I had other people depending on me. And then I saw the love and support of all my family, friends, and everything like that. And especially people I've served with, especially in the gunship community, that let me know that, this isn't the end and things are not over and it's not going to spiral out of control, so that I need to pull my shit together. I need to man up and I deal with it just like I deal with the gunship mission. It is what it is. The circumstances are not what we wanted to be, but they are what we have to accept, and we have to fucking go forward and do our job.
Yep. For
All
sure.
right, guys. Well, I've got about 2 minutes left, and I want to close with one question for each of you, and just letting you know how honored I am to have been a part of crews with you, classes with you, AFSCs with you, being a blue collar sweaty with you,
Ooh,
and
represent.
yeah, and just honored how honored I feel to have you guys on the show this week. But just briefly, what does it mean to you deep down to have been a part of the gunship world?
Mm.
Mm,
Jen, you want to handle that first?
sure. I
Got about another 45 minutes for me.
Okay, so what does it mean to me to be a part of gunships? Um, I think I have the willingness and the ability to bump and grind, essentially, to be persistent.
Ain't nothing wrong.
I think it teaches you
And
how to compartmentalize, and it means that I've always thought it's meant that you're the people that run towards the explosions and toward the fire and toward the gunfire, not away from. Because we may not have the tools or the know-how or the ability to help, but we have the willingness and we're willing to try. I think that's making it work, regardless of the circumstances. That's got ability. That ability. That's what that means to me.
Awesome. About you, Juan?
wait, what was the question?
There's an after party in room 15.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was a tragedy. No, seriously, what was the question?
What does it mean to you to have been a part of the gunship community? Be a part of the
Fuck you
legacy.
guys, man. Oh, no, look, no, I'm joking. I will say this. And don't get me wrong, I'm not taking away anything from any crew or squadron or flight crew that I've ever been a part of. But it's one thing, because I love them all. But it's one thing when you are, I guess, doing the mission and, trying to stay out of harm's way. It's another thing, 100%, when you're actively, knowingly, willingly stepping in harm's way. It's, and they always say being a part of the military is being a part of something bigger than yourself. And I agree with that. And I honestly respect that. And I'm not taking away from anybody, no matter what their mission is, whether it's handing out towels at the gym, whether it's fucking servicing vehicles in fleet, whether it's being on the ground as a PJ or something like that, or combat controller. It's being a part of something bigger than yourself. And the gunship perspective of this is that, and I'm not saying this for kudos or wanting to get kudos or any shit like that, but one thing people need to understand is anybody, I don't give a fuck what their job is in gunships. Anybody that straps their ass to all that metal and goes into harm's way willingly, whether it be, we're just going to be oversight or anything like that. The most harrowing missions began with, you're just doing oversight. We're not expecting enemy contact. Because it's like a cop out on the road, not comparing the two, but I'm just saying, but I am comparing the two.
It can change.
Like out on the
like
road,
that.
it's random call. We got to hang up. You just need to go and verify that everything's okay. And all hell breaks loose. You get a shot in the back of your head or any shit like that. Because I've been on both sides of that coin. It's literally, I've lost teammates in the military and in law enforcement that were answering random calls. And it's one of those things where, and this is where I'm getting serious. It's one of those things where I don't give a shit if you're on gunships and you've never had to make contact with the enemy, or you're one of the old crusty motherfuckers that literally that was your bread and butter. You have to understand that anybody that ever straps their ass to that metal and those guns is accepting a risk. Not only are they accepting a risk, they're willingly walking into it. And whether they expect it or not, shit will happen. because I guarantee you there's probably not one crew member on an AC-130, no matter where it be the E's, the H's, the U's, not even 130s, but even gunship, whether it be the sissified J's or any. Yeah, I took that shot at J models, but whether it be any gunship, they are literally accepting the risk that comes to it, and not with the accepting the risk of, oh, it might happen, but no, it probably will happen. Because the first time I ever had a credible surface-to-air missile come up at me, and I've taken small arms fire from regular slicks doing a regular slick mission.
This episode of Death on Call is powered in part by ROE Graphics and Apparel, Rules of Engagement Graphics, run by Gunship guys. They crank out everything from killer vehicle decals and perforated window wraps to custom signs, shirts, and banners for everything from school fundraisers to patriotic military-themed designs that just scream pride and durability. They also have plenty of gunship artwork from H models to J models and everything in between. Perfect for repping that Spectre, spooky Ghost Rider heritage on the road, at home, or on the tailgate. Built tough in Florida for the warriors who live it. Gear up at roe-graphics.com. Use promo code DOC15. That's one word, DOC15 at checkout for 15% off your order. ROE Graphics, because your setup deserves rules of engagement that demand attention and respect. Big thanks to another Gunship Connected crew supporting the fight. Appreciate you all for tuning in and supporting these brands.
Flying here and there and stuff like that. I was taking regular gunfire, where it's one of those things where in J model, when you actually have a missile coming up at you, it's game on. It's a different story. So, yeah.
Did we lose him?
I think we lost them. Holy shit, I think we lost them.
Didn't mean to hurt his feelings that badly.
Damn,
I'm always messing up.
So, I don't know if it's still recording or not from the last of the straight members of the
Right.
I'm horrible. No. But in all honesty, if it's still recording, the main thing is that anybody that
I miss it.
Life on the Line.
I miss it every single day.
Oh yeah. Well, people ask me all the time, do you miss it? And I'll tell them, I don't miss the bullshit that comes with it. Welcome back.
Dude,
Welcome back.
My kid and wife were yanking my internet, so sorry.
No worries with that. But as I was saying, no matter anybody that's ever signed their life on the line, I have nothing but respect for them. But you have to understand, and I'm not trying to diminish their part they played or embellish the part that we played, but special operations for one, and then special operations gunships. Yeah, we're not on the ground with them because I have nothing but respect for the door kickers and everything like that. But also, it's one of those things where, and like I said, I'm not diminishing their part, but on the ground, you're in a firefight, the whole 9 yards like that, but you can tuck, roll, duck for cover the whole 9 yards like that. It's kind of hard to duck, roll, tuck for cover when you're in a big ass fucking metal, look at me, shoot me out of the air.
Fat, dumb, and flow. Yeah.
And it's like, regardless of what anybody says, I can tell you for a fact, literally, everybody and their mom that we're in conflict with has the capability of shooting American aircraft out of the sky. From Soviet issued higher advanced shit, there's plenty of, whether it's vehicle mounted or man mounted, they're like, literally, we can get shot out of the sky. So anybody that accepts the responsibility of flying a gunship with that much fuel, that much ammunition, it's literally, we're walking into death's door every day. It's a factor whether we're going to walk out or whether the end result is the end result. So
yeah, and it definitely takes a lot, and like I was saying, I miss the camaraderie all the time. If I had another chance, would I go back and do it? Absolutely. And, my life just kind of took a little bit different turn, and I'm okay with how things have worked out now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's still times where even in Charleston, I see a C-130 and I'm like, the plane. And
Yeah.
everyone else around me is like, yeah, it's from the Air Force Base. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
Calm down, Lake. Calm down.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
this has been such a great experience. I'm so glad that we finally were able to get together and do
yeah,
this.
absolutely. And
I also didn't know if we were going to have an hour and 30 minutes worth of time, but
it surprises everybody, man. It surprises everybody how just you start unpacking, you don't know where you end up. But it's been an honor to get to speak to my brother and sister again, and I think it was a great show, and I really appreciate y'all's time and your sacrifice.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
And I look forward to, if you want to be on again, we're just going to keep doing it. I don't have a set amount of episodes or anything like that. I know I've got 80 something people in the hopper, but we're going to throw some variables in there. We're contemplating doing a live watch party, night. And so y'all can, throw your questions in and catch everybody off guard.
hey, I'm down.
And go from there. So there supposedly, we may or may not have been invited to come down to a unit and do an episode there.
Shit.
I'm waiting to hear clarification, but there's a certain chief that said the whole squadron loves the show, and it's not about me because
have Jeep, we'll travel.
Yeah, but it's not about me. All I do is
I volunteer tribute.
I drive the plane. Y'all navigate it. It's just this is I think we all needed it. We have a very critical story of our experience in 𝐄𝐏𝐈𝐒, the gunship 𝐄𝐏𝐈𝐒 story, and it needs to be told. It needs to be recorded, if for nothing else other than posterity's sake, because a lot of families, they don't know how badass a lot of their family members were that did these things. And it was an honor.
Saying around story anymore.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true too.
It was an honor and a privilege to serve with y'all and to work with y'all. And even though Jen and I, you and I had brother, sister, sibling conflict, it just is what it is, because we were both trying to be the best. And
if you will just admit that I am the better loadmaster, we could put this all behind us and move on. But you want to play my dick is bigger than okay.
No, okay. You know what? You can be the better loadmaster. I was the better NCO. How about that?
Oh,
ouch!
Damn.
Can I say one thing that I've been since I retired? Well, before I retired, I need to get off my chest. Jay Smith, I hope you're watching. Jen, you know what I'm talking about because you were there on that one.
Yeah.
Petty man by any means. But I'm pretty sure you understand what I'm talking about when I say that one time when I called you up, literally went and knocked on your door. I was like, hey, man, let's hit Chow Hall. And your punk ass looked me in the eyes and said, oh, my bad, player. We already Hall.
I already ate.
Yeah. I ain't hungry, dog.
Betrayal.
He was,
he was
supposed to be on last week, but I had to cancel for some family stuff. We're gonna get him back. It's him, Farthing, and Wilford.
I'm gonna tell you right now, he probably poisoned school children. I'm just saying. I'm like, no, you can't trust him. I trusted him with being my child buddy, and he hit me with that. We've already went.
That's what you did for trusting somebody with a call sign Snoop.
Fucking facts.
That's what he did.
I love you, but fuck you.
Well,
man, I'm gonna tell you right now, I've had girlfriends cheat on me in the past, but that didn't hit me as hard as what Jay told me. Oh, I already went to Chow Hall.
It's a low blow.
Hey,
it's a low blow.
You know what, Juan? Life's about choices. And actions have consequences.
You can fuck around and find out if you want.
Yeah. Hey, look, if I'm not wrong, Jen talked me out of stabbing him off after he got off that crew bus. Because I was sitting there dry shaving with a bolo knife like Ben Nara would do. Shit like
My
that.
God.
I'm
Awesome,
fucking around.
y'all. Well, I love y'all.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for being on the
I love
show.
y'all.
And
I'm in
be
love.
up about mid to late week after Shipley edits it, and we'll go from there. Thank y'all again.
All right.
Thanks, Luke.
Yeah,
Number
y'all
love.
y'all have a good
Thanks for
evening.
Yeah. Spin it up. Eyes on. I'm a gunship guy. You know what you are. Circle in the black. I'm the quiet star. You ride straight line. I draw halos wide. You drop and you're gone. I stay on your side. I see the whole map like a grain of sand. You brag about speed, I'm the steady hand. I'm a gunship guy, you know what you are. You call my name when it's way too far. You flex your wings, I hold the sky. Cooler under fire, don't even try. I'm a gunship guy, king of the night. You talk big talk, I turn the tide. You punch and run, I stay and mark. I'm the calm, clear voice in the dark.